We told you last week that one of the games that would be outside the top 25, and what was deemed a less than stellar slate of games, but one that you really wanted to keep an eye on was Rutgers and Arkansas. A couple of, major reasons why. Number one, intersectional game. Number two, a real test for a young program with a new coach at Arkansas and Brett Bielema. From their perspective, going on the road and beating a team like Rutgers, who had, in my mind, already proven themselves to be a formidable foe, not only because they beat them last year at Arkansas, but also because of what they had done earlier in the year against Fresno State, pushing them to overtime and losing by one when going for two in the first overtime period. Then the other thing for Rutgers, this was, in a lot of ways, a program builder for their run in a conference that certainly does not carry with it the same cachet as the SEC, the American Athletic Conference. Big game for them to say, we belong in the conversation with Louisville, Central Florida, and others before they make the move to the Big Ten. And Kyle Flood, the coach of Rutgers, joins us now here on the Tim Brando Show after an amazing comeback. Gary Nova going off in the fourth quarter with 250 yards in the air in that quarter alone, bringing his team back from a 24-7 deficit to win. Coach, good to have you with us, and congratulations.
Hey, Tim, I appreciate you having me on. It was a great day for us.
That was a big-time environment, too. And I'm trying to tell my friends from the Southland, particularly those in Arkansas, that are feeling downtrodden today, guess what? If you've never been there, then you don't know how strong an environment those kids were having to play in. Piscataway was rocking. That game meant a lot to you guys, and it was clear in the way that you made that comeback. And I think your vocal crowd had a lot to do with it in getting your team into it.
I don't think there's any doubt, Tim. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Jason Baum, who's our assistant athletic director for media, he had sent me a few quotes from people from their fan base who had attended the game who were quoted as saying it was as loud as any SEC environment they had been in.
Right.
And that doesn't shock me. I've been here long enough to know that when our crowd gets going in the fourth quarter, this becomes as difficult a place to play for the opponent as there is in the country.
Listen, when you were behind, and especially, I guess, after the Tevin Mitchell interception, a 26-yard INT, at that point, what were you saying to your guys in terms of just keeping them engaged? Because at a certain point, enough of that happens to you. It's hard psychologically, even with your veteran guys like a Gary Nova. You can say, well, maybe it's just not our day. You know what I mean? That can set in. How were you handling? What was the demeanor of your kids when you were down by 17 points?
I understand what you're saying, but I think we've got a football team that is very strong-minded. And we're a little younger than we were last year, but it's a competitive group, and it's a very mentally tough group. And at no point on the sideline did I feel like they were disengaged or were wavering in terms of our belief that we could win the game. We just knew we needed to make a few plays. It wasn't going to be 3- and 4-yard plays that were going to be the difference at that point for us on offense. And we were fortunate that Janarian Grant, who was a freshman punt returner, kick returner for us, did a great job. He took one to the end zone and then really gave us some great field position on another return. And Gary made a great fourth down play, pass up the sideline that ended up in the end zone. I think it was a 4th and 12 for a touchdown. And we needed a couple of those plays to get going, and I believed we could do it, but we had to go out there and do it, and we hadn't done it the rest of the game. So, I thought the mental toughness of the football team really came through in the fourth quarter.
On that return by Grant, the kick was relatively low. It looked returnable. And how often do we say that? A play like that on special teams can ignite you and get you going. And the other thing, too, is Nova, his competitive fire is pretty special, isn't it?
It's really his greatest attribute as a major college quarterback is his competitive spirit. And he's very talented. He's a good athlete. He can throw the ball. He can make all the throws. But all those things without that competitive fire, I don't know if he's as good a player as he is. And I'm very proud of him today for the way he brought the team back.
Did you feel like that you could still, at no point did you have to abandon the game plan, right? What the game plan was to attack their middle, and then in so doing, if you could get some yards on the ground, then your guys on the perimeter and Nova's ability to throw would eventually make you a couple of big plays. Was that what it was?
What you said there I think is important in terms of not having to abandon the original game plan. We didn't have to, and I really have to credit our defense for that. Our defense did a great job the only really sustained drive of the game for them was the first drive of the second half, and their coaches did an excellent job at halftime of adjusting, and they had a 10-play drive. But other than that, all of their scores came off turnovers, good field position, and we had quite a few 3-and-outs, 5-play drives. Because our defense played at such a high level, it really allowed us to stay with the game plan of trying to attack them a little bit in the middle in the passing game. It allowed us to continue to run the ball from time to time, even though when you get down 17, you're not going to have as many opportunities. But the combination of what our defense was able to do, and then Janarii and Grant and the rest of our players on special teams contributing, it kept us in the game and allowed us to stay with our original game plan.
This is one of those games, in my opinion, that you may look back at in November and say, wow, this is sort of like when the light went on. You know what I mean? Sometimes a big-time come-from-behind home victory, because now people are beginning to say this, Kyle, hey, they're 1 2-point conversion away from being 4-0. And I don't know that anyone was thinking of Rutgers in those terms until this comeback against Arkansas.
Well, I appreciate that, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think we have a team that's going to compete week in and week out. That is not a surprise to me at all. But as I said to them after the first game, there comes a time and place where we have to win those games, and we were able to do it on Saturday. And that's what I'm most excited about, because now, we go into a bye week before we start our league play.
Right.
And, we've been on the road in tough games. We've been at home in tough games. We've really experienced every style of offense that you can see. I think now we are well set up to go into this bye week and start preparing for what's going to be a really competitive conference schedule.
Coach, a lot of people, I don't need to tell you this, you're headed to the Big Ten next year, maybe in large measure because of it, but a lot of people were saying, this is a cakewalk for Louisville. They're going to be favored in every game to win the American Conference this year. All right. Now we see what Central Florida's got. Okay, I think that's one of the biggest games of the weekend coming up. Central Florida is playing South Carolina. That's a big game. They I think can compete with them with Bortles at quarterback. Now you look a little further into this schedule and you see, oh, by the way, they play Louisville, and then, oh, by the way, there's an opportunity for Cincinnati, who's maybe getting a little bit better after losing Munchie Legault, to find their way before they play Louisville at the end of the year. But here's where I'm going with this. You have a victory like this, and you look back at what you might have been able to do early in the season. There's no reason for you to think that you can't compete for the title on your way out of that league.
Our players will be more than ready to compete week in and week out, and I think, I know when we do these kind of things on radio shows, we talk big picture. Yeah. But for the football team, they don't ever think big picture. That's not where our focus is.
Right.
We're trying to be 1-0 every week, but we know that with every game on our schedule, if we play to our ability level, we will be able to compete. And it doesn't shock me at all at some of the success the other teams in our conference have had. Road wins. Yeah. Over teams like Penn State, so that doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form, just because I know the quality of the players in this conference. Yeah. And I think that'll continue to play out as the year goes on. We know this is going to be a competitive league schedule. We will be ready to compete in every game, and we know that we'll have opportunities to win if we can play to the best of our ability. Well,
certainly no one appreciates your ability to maybe think outside the box and go big picture than I do, because, we do tend to go in that direction from time to time. I have to ask you this before I let you go, though, because it is the first time I've chatted with you since that first week and the overtime decision that you made. By the way, I thought that there was probably less criticism of you making that decision to go in the first overtime for 2 than at any other time, because we all liked it. I think guys that are in the profession that I'm in that know how far you have to travel to play a game like that. It is very late. You got to get your kids back. You got other games to play. And by the way, I know you're trying to win the game. You're in the moment, but you're also, because you're the coach, thinking about what's ahead. The short-term future more than the long-term. But can you kind of take me through the decision you made? Because I think a lot of fans want to know if this was something that's in your head all along, or if you just said, you know what, let's do this now. We've got the right play now.
I've worked with other coaches who make those decisions prior to the game. Yeah. Philosophically, I did not make that decision prior to the game, but I did make it at the beginning of the overtime. Okay. And it was really more based on the flow of the game. And I felt that after they got the ball first, if they were to score a touchdown, I felt that we would come down and score a touchdown. I was very confident, and that was really the way that game had gone. It was, I mean, if neither team had gone for 2, we might have been playing for 7 hours. That just seemed to be the way that game was going.
Well, you had 2 hot quarterbacks going at that point. You
absolutely,
did. You know,
absolutely, and they've got an excellent football team out there. I think that has shown itself too. But for me, we were playing very well on offense. And I felt very good about having the ball in the hands of a hot player,
right,
and throwing the ball to one of the better receivers we've had in our program really in the last 10 years. And we didn't execute it, and we were a little bit off, and that's how it goes sometimes. But I don't regret the decision, and I'm not saying I would make the exact decision every time because I think every game is different. But I certainly don't second-guess that one. And I told the players that I would do it again in a second if that situation arises.
Yeah, I thought, again, going back, and many times people have these questions about whether a coach should put the pedal to the metal that soon. I think a lot of times, particularly in a road game situation and traveling that many time zones, I get it. I do. And as long as the overtime system remains the same, I think we may see more decisions like that made in the future. I do. Kyle, great to have you on. Thanks for the time, and congratulations on a very big win for Rutgers.
Tim, I appreciate that. It was a good day for us.
All right. When we come back, your calls, 888-573-5335.